Well, hello to you all. I'm CJ Miller. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana, across the Red River from beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana. And yeah, we're here in my kitchen in my downtown apartment across the Red River from beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana is downtown Shreveport. Come check us out. Lots of fun things to do. This is the last weekend of the state fair, and it's wrapping up. And I didn't go this year. I have other irons in the fire, so to speak. And this is an easy pork chop dinner. As I was making this, I decided to do a short video. And the short video consists of this pork chop, and there's two others. So I made 3 pork chops in the time it took me to make the sauce here. Now the sauce, well, let's start with the pork chop because I started talking about that. The pork chop, 3 of them thawed, and I put them in self-rising white flour, a little tub, and just enough to cover them, and I kept it there for a few minutes while I warmed up the oil in the pot that it was going to go in. And I used a deep pot, but a shallow amount of oil. So this was more of a pané style, which is a French for pan frying, basically. Instead of a deep fry, I shallow fried, basically. Just enough to coat the bottom of the pan, come maybe halfway up this pork chop, and put it in and let it get a little brown, flip it. If it's not quite brown enough for you, you can let it go for another couple of flips, So put it in, flip it, one final flip until you do that, and watch your pan fried stuff as you're doing it, so you can keep an eye on the color, so you don't overdo it. Okay, so in the same time I was doing that, what else was I doing at the stove was easy for me to do, because I was going to stand here and keep an eye on the pork chop anyway, so I could keep an eye on the sauce. The sauce, I started at the same time with the rice, at the same time that I started frying the pork chop. And so, like I said, I was warming the oil up on that non-stick Gotham steel pan that I use, and went straight to the 6 o'clock position on my electric stove dial. I never go any higher than that when I'm using a Teflon coating, which I'm always using a Teflon coating on the stovetop. So yeah, but on another burner in a shallow pan, I put in enough rice just to coat the bottom of the pan, just to cover the bottom of the pan, and then double and a half the amount of water. So if I use a cup of rice in this pan, that's what I covered the pan in. If I use a cup of rice, then I need to use 2.5 cups of water. What I do is I watch this water and give it the occasional stir as it's coming up to a boil, and just when it just starts to boil, then I turn it down and keep it to a simmer. The occasional stir is okay, but you really don't want to constantly stir your rice, because you really don't want your rice releasing all of its starches, because that's how you get a rice that's very sticky. I want you to look at this, which is fine. Sometimes you want that, but look at how flaky. Give this a good, this is a really good, you can see your individual rices. Individual grains of rice. You really don't have too much mush going on here. Very firm texture. The way you keep your rice firm at its core, even though it cooks all the way through, is you add just a drop or two, depending upon how much rice you're cooking, of a little bit of vinegar, either balsamic vinegar or white vinegar. Either of those will work. I happen to have balsamic vinegar around all the time, and that's what I used. Maybe just a drop. And then also, a secret, I used just a drop of kitchen bouquet in the water that this was that this rice was made in, and that you barely notice it, but you would notice it if it wasn't there. Okay, so that gives it that so it's not just like, oh, my rice tastes like water, because I didn't add salt to this. Uh, but while that was going on, at the same time, I had melted down about a tablespoon and a half of unsalted butter. That's the same as sweet cream butter, and an equal amount of self-rising flour, just until the butter and the flour was well incorporated. I didn't worry about bringing it up to a really, really dark caramel color. But really before it caramelized, that's when I added the milk. You can use milk, half and half, cream, anything for this. You could get away with using, no fat, low fat, or skim milk, whatever. But the whole idea is that in French cooking, a cream sauce is called a bechamel. To that, I added, to taste, cayenne pepper and MSG, that's your monosodium glutamate, which is your salt substitute, but there is salt in the self-rising flour. So don't think there's no salt flavor in here. It's just what happens with milk. Milk mutes the flavor of salt. So you'll have to gradually add that monosodium glutamate or your table salt if you're using table salt until it comes up to a flavor that you like. You want to taste this sauce gradually. Once you put the milk in, you'll definitely want to come back in and taste it. But whatever you add, I used, like I said, I started out with the monosodium glutamate. That's your MSG. Cayenne pepper, that's where the pepper came from in here. And then I used oregano. And I used cilantro, and I used Italian seasoning, just a general blend of Italian seasoning to give it just a little bit of an herb inside. Now that's not what you're seeing on top because it's well incorporated into the sauce. But what happened when this was finished, and I had 3 pork chops done and this rice done by the time I was still simmering this sauce, because what I did with that was I incorporated all that into the sauce, gradually stirring. Gradually stirring until it comes up to it's just starting to give us some bubbles, and then what I do is remove it from the heat, put it on a trivet off to the side, and gradually stir it. And then towards the end where the meal's almost done, I put it back on the stove and let it kind of get a little warm. But it will thicken. Look how thick this is. This is a really good no-fail sauce. I need to just do a series of sauces, your French mother sauces. Just nothing but those. But listen, season as you like. If you want to add a little less of this or a little more of that, you want to drop in like I did, even to the sauce. I did it with the rice, but I put just a drop of Kitchen Bouquet. Not enough to change the color. Very diluted in a little, capful of water, basically, of the Kitchen Bouquet, and poured it into the sauce just as it was finished. Gives it just a little something extra. Star of the show, folks, is the sauce. Okay, so you saw how I had this. I had it so it was so lovely. I had this all whatever. Then I started eating it. It's delicious. Okay, so the garnish on this is the sauce across, and then this way coming across, just all the way across the plate, Italian seasoning. Just a regular old Italian seasoning blend. Just kind of right across the plate here. Juxtapose the lines going this way, and just one, and hold it up high and sprinkle it, and it'll fall where it may. Let's taste the pork chop. Look at this, and I'll tell you, a pork chop, a decent pork chop, you can have one fried up if the oil's really, really warm. The oil should be crackling hot by the time you put this pork chop in. If you find that you put it in a little bit too soon, just don't move it around, and once it really clings to this pork chop, you'll be able to kind of take your pan and give it a slight shake, and the pork chop will move atop the oil. And that's how you will know that your flour has turned into a crust, to a breading on the underside, and then you'll be able to give it a flip. You want to know? Let's see how it looks. I do put my best side down, but when you take it and you put it on a plate or something, you are going to lose, just in the cooling process, you're going to lose a little bit of the crust, because, you know, unless you have like a rack or something you can cool this with. I think that it's kind of unnecessary. I'd rather drain it on paper, but you know, because sometimes when I've taken a heavier thing like this and I've let it drain on top of a rack, sometimes that rack can actually, I'll lose more crust on the rack than I actually would, say, a paper product, you know, so parchment, paper towel or something. But oh my God. I have been doing so much work at the gym, I don't mind not being on keto right now.